Amy Rodriguez grabbed her coffee cup and ran toward the parking lot. She was already 15 minutes late for her first day at Titan Industries. Her alarm had failed to go off, and then her shower had run cold water. Now her bra strap was digging into her shoulder in the most annoying way possible. The morning sun was bright and hot as she hurried across the huge parking lot. Titan Industries owned one of the biggest aerospace facilities in the country. Amy had been lucky to get an internship here. Very few college students ever got the chance to work on real space projects. She stopped running when she saw her reflection in a shiny black car window. Her hair was a mess, and her white blouse was wrinkled. But the worst part was her bra strap, which had somehow twisted and was now poking out from under her shirt collar. Amy looked around the parking lot. No one was nearby. The car looked empty through the dark windows. She set her coffee cup on the hood and used the window as a mirror to fix her clothes. "Come on, stupid strap," she muttered, reaching under her blouse to adjust everything properly. "Why do you always do this on important days?" She smoothed down her hair and checked her teeth for coffee stains. The window made a perfect mirror. She could see herself clearly in the dark glass. Amy practiced her smile a few times and straightened her ID badge. "Okay, Amy," she said to her reflection. "You can do this, it's just an internship. These people put their pants on one leg at a time, just like everyone else." She picked up her coffee and hurried toward the main building. Amy never noticed the slight movement inside the car, or the man who had been watching her through the one-way glass. Inside the luxury sedan, Jake Morrison sat very still. He had been in the middle of a secure video conference with 3 Pentagon officials when the young woman appeared at his window. Now those same officials were staring at him through their computer screens, waiting for him to continue the meeting. "Sir, are you still there?" asked General Patricia Hayes from her office in Washington. Jake muted his microphone and watched Amy walk away. She had an interesting way of moving. Confident but not cocky. Direct but not rude. She had talked to her own reflection like she was giving herself a pep talk before a big game. "Sorry about that," Jake said, turning back to his laptop screen. "Where were we?" "We were discussing the psychological profiles for the contact team," said Dr. Marcus Webb, the Pentagon's chief alien relations specialist. "We need people who can handle first contact without breaking down or making stupid mistakes." Jake nodded, but part of his mind was still thinking about the woman at his window. Most people would have been embarrassed if they knew someone was watching, but she had been completely natural. No fake behavior, no trying to impress anyone. Just a person solving a simple problem in the simplest way possible. "The aliens are expecting us to send our best diplomats," continued General Hayes. "People with advanced degrees and years of training." "What if that's exactly the wrong approach?" Jake asked. The 3 officials on his screen looked confused. "What do you mean?" asked Dr. Webb. Jake thought about Amy's reflection in his window. She had treated a twisted bra strap like any other problem that needed fixing. No drama, no overthinking, just practical action. "Maybe we're making this too complicated," Jake said. "What if we need someone who doesn't think like a diplomat?" Colonel Frank Torres, the 3rd person on the call, frowned. "Sir, this is the most important moment in human history. We can't send amateurs." "I'm not talking about amateurs," Jake replied. "I'm talking about people who haven't been trained to see problems in certain ways. People who might find solutions that trained experts would miss." Jake Morrison was 28 years old and worth more money than most small countries. He had started Morrison Defense Technologies when he was 22, using money from his first invention. Now his company built the most advanced aircraft and space systems for the U.S. military. But Jake's real job was much more secret. For the past 3 years, he had been preparing for the day when alien visitors would make official contact with Earth. That day was coming very soon. The aliens had been watching humans for decades. They had learned human languages and studied human behavior. They thought they understood everything about people on Earth. Jake believed they were wrong. "We'll continue this discussion later," Jake told the Pentagon officials. "I have some research to do." He ended the video call and made a phone call to his head of security. "Charlie, I need you to find out everything about someone for me," Jake said. "Sure, boss." "What's the name?" Jake looked at the building where Amy had disappeared. I don't know her name yet, but she's a new intern here at Titan. Young, maybe early 20s, Hispanic, about 5'6". She was wearing a white blouse and dark pants. That could be anyone, boss. She'll be the one who got here 15 minutes late this morning, Jake added. Charlie laughed. That narrows it down. I'll have her file in an hour. Jake hung up and sat back in his seat. Through his window, he could see the Titan Industries building where Amy was probably sitting in some boring orientation meeting. She had no idea that aliens were real. She didn't know that Earth was about to join a galaxy full of other intelligent species. Most importantly, she didn't know that her simple moment of using his car window as a mirror had just changed the course of human history. Jake had spent months looking for the right person to represent humanity in First Contact. He had interviewed diplomats, scientists, military officers, and business leaders. All of them were smart and well-trained. But all of them thought in predictable ways. The aliens were expecting humans to act like every other species they had met. They had detailed plans for how the first meetings would go. They knew exactly how humans were supposed to respond to contact with a superior civilization. But Amy Rodriguez had just shown Jake something different. She had shown him that the best humans were the ones who treated extraordinary situations like ordinary problems that needed simple solutions. Jake smiled and started his car. It was time to make some changes to the internship program at Titan Industries. Amy Rodriguez was about to get opportunities she never expected, and she was going to help save the human race without even knowing it. The really interesting part was that she would probably handle saving the world the same way she had handled fixing her bra strap, like it was just one more problem that needed to be solved. Amy sat in the orientation room with 12 other new interns. Dr. Kevin Walsh, their supervisor, was explaining the rules and safety procedures. Amy tried to pay attention, but her mind kept wandering. The building was much bigger than she had expected, and some areas were completely off limits to interns. Your first assignment will be in the simulation lab, Dr. Walsh said. We'll be testing your problem-solving skills with various scenarios. Amy raised her hand. What kind of scenarios? Equipment failures, system malfunctions, things like that, Dr. Walsh replied. Nothing too complicated. But Amy noticed that Dr. Walsh's eyes didn't quite meet hers when he answered. There was something he wasn't telling them. 3 floors above the orientation room, Jake Morrison watched the meeting through a security camera. He had Amy's file open on his desk. Amy Rodriguez, 22 years old, engineering student at State University. Good grades, but not perfect. No rich family connections. No special government clearance. Perfect. Jake's phone buzzed. It was Dr. Walsh calling from downstairs. The new group is ready for testing, Dr. Walsh said. Are you sure about this approach? Very sure, Jake replied. Start with the basic scenarios, but I want you to focus on the Rodriguez girl. See how she thinks. Jake had spent the morning making changes to the internship program. The other 12 interns would get normal assignments, but Amy would face challenges designed to test something much more important than engineering skills. The first test came that afternoon. Amy and the other interns were taken to a room full of computer simulators. Each simulator showed a different problem that might happen on a spacecraft. You have 1 hour to solve your assigned scenario, Dr. Walsh announced. Begin now. Amy looked at her screen. It showed a space station with multiple system failures. The air recycling was broken. The power grid was overloaded. The communication system was down. And there was a small fire in the engineering section. Most people would start with the fire because it seemed most dangerous. But Amy looked at the whole situation differently. She noticed that the power overload was causing most of the other problems. Fix the power, and everything else would be easier to handle. She started typing commands to reroute power through backup systems. Within 10 minutes, she had the power stable. Then she used the restored systems to put out the fire and fix the air recycling. At the next simulator, another intern named Bobby Chen was still trying to put out his fire manually. He hadn't noticed that shutting off power to that section would remove the fire's fuel source. Amy finished her scenario in 35 minutes. She looked around and saw that most of the other interns were still struggling with their problems. "Done already?" Dr. Walsh asked, appearing beside her chair. "Yes, sir. Should I help the others?" Dr. Walsh shook his head. "Let's see how they do on their own. But I have another scenario for you to try." He led Amy to a different simulator. This one showed a more complex problem. An alien device had been found on a crashed meteorite. Scientists were trying to figure out how it worked, but their scans were causing the device to heat up dangerously. "The scientists want to keep scanning," Dr. Walsh explained, "but the device might explode if it gets too hot. What do you do?" Amy studied the scenario. The scientists in the simulation were using powerful scanning equipment because they wanted detailed information quickly. But maybe that was the wrong approach. "What if we stop using the big scanners and try something gentler?" Amy suggested. "Like taking pictures first or using very low-power scans?" She started with simple visual observation in the simulation. The device cooled down immediately. Then she used weak scans that didn't produce heat. It took longer to get information, but the device stayed safe. "Interesting approach," Dr. Walsh said, making notes on his tablet. "Sometimes the slow way is the smart way," Amy replied. "My grandmother always said that patience gets you further than pushing too hard." Dr. Walsh smiled. "Your grandmother sounds wise." What Amy didn't know was that the alien device scenario wasn't just a simulation. 3 months ago, a real alien probe had crashed in the Nevada desert. Military scientists had nearly caused an explosion by using the exact same approach as the simulated scientists. They had eventually solved the problem the same way Amy just had. Jake Morrison had designed the test based on that real incident. He wanted to see if Amy would make the same mistake as trained experts or if she would find a better way. She had found the better way in less than 20 minutes. That evening, Amy called her roommate Lisa from her apartment. "How was the first day?" Lisa asked. "Weird," Amy replied. "The scenarios were really specific, like they were based on real situations." "Maybe they were. Companies probably keep records of actual problems." Amy stirred her instant noodles and thought about it. "Yeah, but some of the scenarios felt different, like they weren't just about engineering. They were about how you approach problems when you don't have all the information." That sounds like good training for any job, but Amy couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to it. Dr. Walsh had been watching her very carefully, and some of the scenarios seemed designed to test how she would react to truly unknown situations. The next morning brought more tests. This time, Amy was paired with another intern named Rick Davis for a teamwork scenario. They were supposed to negotiate with a computer program that represented a foreign government trying to buy advanced technology. "We should offer them the basic model first," Rick suggested, "then negotiate up to better versions." Amy read through the scenario more carefully. "Wait, look at this. They're not asking for our newest technology. They specifically want something that's 2 generations old, so that makes it easier to sell. But why would they want old technology unless they already have something newer?" Amy asked. "What if this isn't about buying from us? What if they're testing whether we'll notice they're more advanced than they're pretending to be?" Rick looked confused, but Amy had already started typing a different response to the computer program. Instead of trying to sell technology, she asked polite questions about what the foreign government really needed. The computer program's responses changed immediately. It started admitting that it already had advanced technology, but needed help with a specific technical problem that required human creativity to solve. Dr. Walsh appeared beside their workstation. "Excellent work, Amy. Rick, you can move to the next scenario." After Rick left, Dr. Walsh sat down next to Amy. "How did you know the computer was lying?" "I didn't know for sure," Amy replied. "But the request didn't make sense unless there was something else going on. When things don't make sense, I try to figure out what information I'm missing." Dr. Walsh nodded. "That's a very useful skill." What he didn't tell Amy was that the scenario was based on real diplomatic contact with an alien species. The aliens had approached Earth's governments pretending to need basic technology, when they actually had far more advanced capabilities. They were testing whether humans would be honest in negotiations or try to take advantage of supposedly less advanced beings. Most trained diplomats had fallen for the trick, and tried to overcharge for basic technology. Amy was the first person to recognize that the situation wasn't what it appeared to be. Jake Morrison watched the test results from his office and smiled. Amy Rodriguez was proving to be exactly what he had hoped. She didn't just solve problems, she questioned the problems themselves when they didn't make sense. That ability was going to be crucial when the real aliens arrived, because everything they told humanity would be carefully designed to test how humans truly thought and behaved. Amy had no idea that she was being prepared for the most important conversation in human history. She just thought she was doing well at her internship at an aerospace company. Jake picked up his secure phone and dialed a number in Washington. General Hayes? It's Morrison. I think we found our person. Amy was carrying coffee to Dr. Walsh's office when the building's alarm system started screaming. Red lights flashed in the hallways, and a computerized voice announced, "Security breach in Section C. All personnel evacuate immediately." Amy had never heard this alarm before. In her 3 weeks at Titan Industries, the only drills had been simple fire alarms. This sounded much more serious. She followed the crowd of people heading toward the main exits, but got separated when someone bumped into her. Her coffee spilled everywhere, and by the time she cleaned it up, the hallway was empty. Amy tried to remember the way back to the main lobby, but all the corridors looked the same. She took a left turn, then a right, then another left. Nothing looked familiar. The emergency lights cast strange shadows on the walls. Amy walked faster, looking for any sign that would point her toward an exit. Instead, she found herself in a part of the building she had never seen before. The walls here were different, thicker. The doors had electronic locks instead of regular handles, and there were warning signs everywhere about authorized personnel only. Amy tried her ID badge on one of the doors, expecting it not to work. But the door clicked open. "That's weird," she muttered, stepping through the doorway. She found herself in a large room that looked like something from a science fiction movie. The ceiling was 30 feet high, and the walls were covered with screens showing star charts and technical diagrams. In the center of the room was a circular platform with strange equipment she didn't recognize, and standing on the platform were 3 beings that definitely weren't human. They were about 7 feet tall and looked like they were made of living crystal. Their bodies caught the light and threw it back in rainbow patterns. Instead of faces, they had smooth surfaces that seemed to shift and change as Amy watched. Amy stopped walking and stared. Her first thought was surprisingly practical. "Oh," she said out loud. "So that's why all the scenarios were so weird." One of the crystal beings turned toward her. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes mixed with a computer. This human was not scheduled to be present, it said to the other beings. Amy realized she should probably be scared. These were obviously aliens, and she was in a restricted area during some kind of emergency. But her brain seemed to be working normally, just processing this as another unusual situation. "Sorry," she said, the same way she would apologize for walking into the wrong classroom. "I got lost during the evacuation. I can leave if you're busy." The 3 beings looked at each other. At least Amy thought they were looking at each other. It was hard to tell without normal faces. "You are not exhibiting the predicted fear response," said the being who had spoken before. "Should I be scared?" Amy asked. "I mean, you're obviously not human, but you haven't done anything threatening. Are you here to hurt people?" "We are here for diplomatic contact," replied a second being. "We are representatives of the Zephyrian Collective." "Oh, that's good then," Amy said. "Diplomacy is much better than invasion. Are you having trouble with our people? You mentioned something about predictions not working out." The third being stepped forward. "Our psychological models indicated that humans would respond to first contact with either fear, aggression, or worship behaviors. You are displaying none of these patterns." Amy shrugged. "Well, you seem pretty civilized. You're talking instead of shooting, and you're being polite about it." "Why would I be scared of polite people even if they look different?" She walked closer to get a better look at them. "Are you actually made of crystal? Or is that just what you look like to us? And how do you see things without eyes?" The beings made sounds that might have been surprise or confusion. "You wish to understand our biology?" asked the first being. Sure, if you don't mind explaining. I'm studying engineering, so I'm curious about how different body designs solve different problems. Like, do you process information faster because your brains are crystal-based? Or do you think in completely different ways than humans? For the next 10 minutes, Amy asked the kind of questions she might ask any new coworkers. What did they eat? How did their technology work? What was their planet like? Did they have families? The beings answered her questions, but they seemed increasingly puzzled by her behavior. This is highly irregular, said the second being. Our cultural specialists prepared detailed protocols for managing human emotional responses to contact. None of the protocols anticipated casual conversation. Maybe your cultural specialists overthought it, Amy suggested. People adapt to new situations pretty quickly if the new situations aren't actually dangerous. You guys seem nice enough. The door behind Amy opened, and Jake Morrison walked in with Dr. Walsh and several people in military uniforms. Amy, Doctor, Walsh said, you're supposed to be evacuated. I got lost, Amy replied. But it's okay, I was just talking with... She turned to the beings. I'm sorry, I never got your names. I am designated Vex Prime, said the first being. These are my colleagues Harmony 7 and Logic Delta. Nice to meet you, Amy said. I'm Amy Rodriguez. I'm an intern here, but I guess this place does more than just build airplanes. Jake Morrison was staring at Amy like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. The military people looked tense and confused. Amy, Jake said carefully, these are our visitors from another world. This is humanity's first official contact with an alien species. Yeah, I figured that out, Amy replied. They're pretty interesting. Did you know they don't actually eat food? They absorb energy directly from light sources. That's incredibly efficient. Vex Prime made the wind chime sound that seemed to indicate surprise. The human continues to treat this encounter as a normal social interaction. Is that a problem? Amy asked. Our projections indicated that first contact would require extensive preparation to prevent human psychological trauma, said Harmony 7. We have protocols for managing panic, aggression, and religious fervor. We do not have protocols for casual acceptance. Amy looked around the room at all the serious faces. Maybe that's because you were making it more complicated than it needed to be. I mean, yes, this is obviously a big deal for our species and everything. But right now, in this room, it's just people talking to people. Different kinds of people, but still just people. Logic Delta stepped closer to Amy. You do not see us as superior beings to be feared or worshipped? Should I? Amy asked. You're more advanced than us, sure. But my engineering professors are more advanced than me too, and I don't worship them, I just try to learn from them. The aliens made more wind chime sounds among themselves. Jake Morrison realized he was watching something remarkable. The most important moment in human history was happening, and Amy Rodriguez was handling it exactly the way she had handled everything else in her life. Like it was just another problem to be understood and worked with. Amy, Jake said, would you like to help us with the formal diplomatic process? Amy looked surprised. Me? I'm just an intern. Don't you have actual diplomats for this? We do, Jake replied, but I think our visitors might prefer your approach. Vex Prime turned toward Jake. The human Amy Rodriguez has demonstrated unexpected cognitive patterns. We would be interested in continuing dialogue with her. Amy grinned. Well, okay then. This is definitely more interesting than the simulations. She had no idea that her simple, practical approach to meeting aliens was about to change the course of human history. She was just happy to be included in something important. And in the back of his mind, Jake Morrison was starting to realize that maybe humanity's greatest strength wasn't technology or military power. Maybe it was the ability to treat any situation, no matter how extraordinary, as just another day at work. Amy sat in the conference room that had been her home for the past week. Across from her, Vex Prime and the other Zephyrian representatives were explaining something that made her head spin. So let me get this straight, Amy said, holding up her hand to stop the translation. There's a whole galaxy full of different alien species, and you guys travel around finding new civilizations to bring into your group? That is a simplified but accurate description, Vex Prime replied. The Galactic Collective has existed for over 50,000 of your years. We identify species that show potential for advancement and guide them through the integration process. Amy frowned. Integration into what exactly? Into galactic civilization, said Harmony 7. We provide technology, knowledge, and cultural guidance to help primitive species evolve beyond their limitations. The word primitive bothered Amy, but she tried to stay focused on understanding the bigger picture. Jake Morrison sat beside her, along with Dr. Walsh and several government officials who had arrived from Washington. They all looked overwhelmed by the information they were receiving. Amy noticed that the officials kept taking notes and asking technical questions about alien technology and military capabilities. But Amy was more interested in something else. What happens to species that don't want to be integrated? She asked. Thor, Zephyrians made their wind chime sound. That is not a typical concern. Most species are grateful for the opportunity to advance beyond their current limitations. But what if they're not? Amy pressed. What if they like their limitations? Logic Delta leaned forward. Can you explain why a species would choose to remain primitive when offered advancement? Amy thought about how to answer that. Maybe they don't see themselves as primitive. Maybe they think their way of doing things has value, even if it's different from yours. The room got quiet. Amy could feel everyone staring at her. Amy, said General Hayes, who had flown in from Washington that morning, these beings are offering us incredible opportunities. Advanced technology, faster than light travel, solutions to diseases and energy problems. I know, Amy replied, and that's amazing. But I want to understand what they expect in return. Vex Prime's crystal body shifted colors slightly. Integration requires species to adopt standardized governmental structures, educational systems, and social organizations. This ensures compatibility with galactic civilization. So we have to change how we organize our societies to match everyone else? Correct. The process typically takes between 50 and 100 of your years. Amy looked around the table. The government officials were nodding like this sounded reasonable. Jake Morrison was watching her carefully, but she couldn't tell what he was thinking. Has any species ever said no? Amy asked. The Zephyrians were quiet for a long moment. Refusal of integration is... Logic Delta paused. Unprecedented. No rational species would reject such clear benefits. Amy felt a chill run down her spine. What about irrational species? Irrational species do not typically survive to achieve spaceflight, Harmony 7 replied. The meeting continued for another hour, with the officials asking about trade agreements and technology transfers. But Amy couldn't stop thinking about the Zephyrians' answers to her questions. That afternoon, Jake Morrison found Amy sitting alone in the facility's cafeteria. Mind if I join you? He asked. Amy gestured to the empty chair across from her. Sure, though I'm probably not the best company right now. Jake sat down and opened a bottle of water. You're thinking about what they said, aren't you? Am I being paranoid, or does their offer sound too good to be true? What do you mean? Amy pushed her sandwich around on her plate. They show up and offer us everything we've ever dreamed of. Amazing technology, solutions to all our problems, membership in this huge galactic community. And all we have to do is reorganize our entire civilization to match their standards. That doesn't sound unreasonable, Jake said. If we want to join a larger community, we need to learn how that community works. But what if we don't want to join? Amy asked. What if we like being human the way we are now? Jake leaned back in his chair. Amy, they're offering us the stars. Faster than light travel, advanced medicine, clean energy. Why would we want to stay limited to one planet? I'm not saying we should reject their technology, Amy replied. I'm saying maybe we should be careful about accepting their social and political changes. What if the way humans think and organize ourselves is actually valuable, even if it looks primitive to them? Before Jake could answer, Dr. Walsh approached their table. Amy, the Zephyrians are asking for you specifically, he said. They want to continue the discussion from this morning. Amy followed Dr. Walsh back to the conference room. This time, only Vex Prime was waiting for her. "Amy Rodriguez," Vex Prime said, "we wish to understand your concerns about integration." Amy sat down across from the alien. "Why me? There are people here with much more education and experience. Your responses have been unexpected. Our models predicted that humans would either eagerly accept integration or resist it through fear and aggression. You appear to be doing neither." "I'm trying to understand what integration really means," Amy said. "And I'm wondering if there might be other options." "Other options?" Amy took a deep breath. "What if humans could contribute something to galactic civilization without completely changing who we are?" Vex Prime's body flickered through several colors. "What could your species contribute that more advanced civilizations have not already provided?" "I don't know yet," Amy admitted. "But we must have something unique or you wouldn't be interested in us at all. We are interested in your species' potential for advancement. But what if our potential isn't about becoming more like you?" Amy asked. "What if it's about staying uniquely human while also being part of something bigger?" The alien was quiet for a long time. "This perspective has not been presented to us before," Vex Prime finally said. "Maybe that's because no one ever asked the right questions," Amy replied. Over the next few days, more alien visitors arrived. Amy learned that the Zephyrians were just one group in a much larger galactic community. There were the militaristic Corvan Empire who believed strength determined a species' value. There were the ethereal consciousness beings, who existed as pure energy and thought physical bodies were primitive. Each group had their own ideas about how humans should develop. But they all agreed on one thing. Humans needed to be changed to fit into galactic civilization. Amy spent hours talking with representatives from different species. She asked them about their own histories, their cultures, their ways of thinking. And she started to notice something interesting. All of these advanced civilizations were very good at solving certain types of problems. The Zephyrians excelled at logical, systematic thinking. The Corvans were masters of military strategy and resource management. The Ethereals could process information at incredible speeds. But when Amy asked them about problems that required creative thinking or unexpected approaches, they seemed confused. They had become so specialized in their own ways of thinking that they couldn't imagine other solutions. "Jake," Amy said one evening as they walked through the facility, "I think I'm starting to understand something." "What's that?" "These aliens are all really advanced, but they're also kind of limited. They've each developed one way of thinking really well, but they seem to have lost the ability to think in other ways." Jake stopped walking. "What are you getting at?" "What if humans are valuable precisely because we haven't specialized like they have? What if our strength is that we can still think in lots of different ways?" Jake stared at her. "Amy, are you suggesting that being less advanced might actually be an advantage?" "I'm suggesting that maybe we're not less advanced," Amy replied. "Maybe we're just advanced in a different way." She didn't know it yet, but that insight was about to become crucial, because somewhere in the galaxy, an ancient threat was awakening. And all the specialized thinking of the advanced civilizations wouldn't be enough to stop it. They were going to need something they had never encountered before: the unpredictable, adaptable, stubbornly human way of solving impossible problems. Amy was in the middle of explaining human agriculture to a group of ethereal consciousness beings when every alarm in the facility started screaming at once. But these weren't the security breach alarms from before. These were different, louder, more urgent. Vex Prime materialized in the conference room in a flash of crystal light. "Emergency session required immediately. All species representatives to the main assembly hall." Amy followed the crowd of aliens and humans to a room she hadn't seen before. It was huge, with a domed ceiling that showed star charts and real-time images from space. Representatives from dozens of alien species were gathered there, more than Amy had ever seen in one place. At the center of the room, a massive holographic display showed a section of the galaxy. Red warning symbols were blinking all across it. "What's happening?" Amy asked Jake, who had appeared beside her. "I don't know," he replied. but it looked serious. A new alien stepped forward to address the assembly. This one was different from any Amy had seen before. It looked ancient, with metallic skin that seemed to shift between silver and gold. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of centuries. "I am eldest prime of the Archive Keepers," it announced. "We are the record holders of galactic history. Today we face a crisis that threatens all life in this sector of the galaxy." The holographic display zoomed in on a particular star system. Around one of the planets, Amy could see a massive geometric structure that definitely wasn't natural. "The Sentinel Array has awakened," Eldest Prime continued. "It is a defense system built by the ancients over 1 million years ago. Its purpose was to eliminate any species that showed signs of aggressive expansion across multiple star systems." Murmurs of fear and concern rippled through the assembly. Amy noticed that even the most advanced aliens looked worried. "The array has been dormant for millennia," said a Corvan representative, his voice tight with concern. "What triggered its activation?" "Our expansion into the Outer Rim territories," admitted a Zephyrian official. "The array interprets our recent colonization efforts as aggressive expansion." Amy raised her hand. Everyone turned to look at her, and she suddenly felt very small in the room full of advanced beings. Excuse me," she said. "What exactly does this array do when it decides a species is too aggressive?" Eldest Prime's metallic features shifted into what might have been a grimace. "It systematically destroys all inhabited worlds belonging to that species. No exceptions. No negotiations. It has done this to 17 civilizations over the past million years." The room fell silent. "How long do we have?" asked an ethereal being. "The array completes its scanning process in 72 Earth hours," Eldest Prime replied. "Then it begins elimination protocols. Our combined fleets cannot match its technology. It was designed by beings far more advanced than any current galactic civilization." Jake leaned over to Amy. "This is what they meant about irrational species not surviving to reach spaceflight. The array killed them." Amy stared at the holographic display. The geometric structure around the planet looked impossibly complex, like a puzzle made of metal and energy that spanned thousands of miles. "What have you tried so far?" she asked. "Our greatest scientists and military strategists have analyzed the array for the past 18 hours, said Vex Prime. "We have attempted direct communication, electronic warfare, and coordinated military strikes. Nothing has worked. The array responds only to its original programming," added Eldest Prime. "It cannot be reasoned with or deceived. It can only be shut down through its original control mechanism." "Which is what exactly?" Amy asked. "Unknown. The ancients left no records of the shutdown procedure." Amy walked closer to the holographic display. "Can you show me what you've tried?" For the next hour, the assembled aliens demonstrated their attempts to communicate with or disable the array. Amy watched as the most brilliant minds in the galaxy threw their best solutions at the problem. The Zephyrians had tried logical mathematical proofs to show that galactic expansion could be peaceful. The array ignored them. The Corvans had attempted to destroy the array with coordinated strikes from 100 warships. Their weapons hadn't even scratched its surface. The Ethereals had tried to hack into the array's computer systems using pure consciousness. They couldn't even find an entry point. Other species had tried everything from diplomatic negotiations to complex technological solutions. Nothing worked. "It's like the array doesn't care about our reasons," Amy muttered, studying the display. "What do you mean?" asked Jake. "Look at everything they've tried. Mathematical proofs, military force, computer hacking, diplomatic talking. They're all trying to convince the array that they're wrong about galactic expansion being dangerous." "Isn't that the right approach?" Amy shook her head. "What if the array isn't wrong? What if it's absolutely right?" The room went quiet. Every alien in the assembly turned to look at her. "Explain," said Eldest Prime. Amy took a deep breath. "What if the array isn't looking for proof that expansion is peaceful? What if it's looking for proof that a species can choose not to expand, even when they have the power to do it?" "That is illogical," said a Zephyrian representative. "Expansion is the natural result of technological advancement. Is it though? Amy asked. Every species here has been expanding across the galaxy for thousands of years. You find new worlds. You colonize them, you build bigger fleets, you find more worlds. When do you ever stop and say this is enough? The aliens looked confused by the question. Why would we stop expanding? Asked a Corvin. Growth equals strength. But what if the array was built by a species that learned something different? Amy suggested. What if they learned that endless expansion eventually destroys everything, including the species doing the expanding? She pointed at the holographic display. Look at the design of that thing. It's not just a weapon, it's a test. The ancients built it to see if species could learn to control themselves before they destroyed the galaxy. You're suggesting we should stop our expansion programs? Asked Vex Prime. I'm suggesting maybe that's what the array is waiting for, Amy replied. Not proof that expansion is safe, but proof that you're wise enough to choose limits. Eldest Prime studied Amy carefully. This approach has not been considered. Because nobody wants to give up their expansion plans, Amy said. But what if that's exactly what you need to do? What if the test isn't about proving you're strong enough to expand safely, but about proving you're wise enough to expand carefully? The assembly erupted in discussions. Amy could hear dozens of different languages as species debated among themselves. Finally, Vex Prime spoke for the group. Amy Rodriguez, your species has not yet begun galactic expansion. If we were to halt our current expansion programs, would humanity agree to do the same? Amy looked around the room at all the advanced civilizations. I can't speak for all of humanity, she said. But I think most humans would agree that it's better to explore the galaxy slowly and carefully than to risk destroying it by moving too fast. This proposal requires unanimous agreement from all species, said Eldest Prime. And it must be a genuine commitment, not a temporary measure. Amy realized that the fate of billions of beings across the galaxy might depend on whether all these different species could agree to something that went against their basic instincts. How long do we have to decide? She asked. 47 hours, Eldest Prime replied. Amy looked at Jake. No pressure, right? But in her mind, she was already thinking about the problem the same way she had approached everything else in her life. Like a puzzle that could be solved if you just looked at it from the right angle. The array wasn't their enemy. It was their teacher. And the lesson it was trying to teach might be the most important one any species could learn. Amy hadn't slept in 36 hours. The assembly hall was filled with exhausted aliens arguing in dozens of languages. Every species had different reasons why halting expansion was impossible or dangerous. The Corvins insisted that stopping expansion would make them vulnerable to attack. The Zephyrians argued that growth was necessary for technological progress. The Ethereals claimed that consciousness itself required constant expansion to evolve. We're running out of time, Jake said, checking his watch. 10 hours left. Amy rubbed her eyes and looked at the holographic display. The array was still there, patient and immovable, waiting for an answer that might never come. They're all afraid, she said quietly. Of the array? No, of stopping. They've been expanding for so long that they don't remember how to be satisfied with what they have. Amy stood up and walked to the center of the assembly hall. The arguing continued around her until she cleared her throat loudly. Excuse me, she said. When the noise didn't stop, she put her fingers in her mouth and whistled as loud as she could. The entire hall went silent. Thank you, Amy said. I have an idea, but I need everyone to listen carefully. Vex Prime moved closer. We are listening, Amy Rodriguez. You're all arguing about whether to stop expanding forever, Amy said. But that's not what the array is asking for. Please explain, said Eldest Prime. Amy pointed at the holographic display. The array isn't testing whether you can stop expanding permanently. It's testing whether you can choose to stop when stopping is the right thing to do. The distinction is unclear, said a Zephyrian representative. Think about it this way, Amy continued. A child learns self-control by choosing not to eat candy, when eating too much would make them sick. The goal isn't to never eat candy again, the goal is to learn when to say no. She gestured around the room. All of you have been expanding without ever asking if expansion was the right choice in each specific situation. The array is asking, can you learn to make that choice consciously? You are suggesting we demonstrate restraint rather than cessation, said Logic Delta. Exactly. Show the array that you're mature enough to expand thoughtfully instead of automatically. The Corvin representative stepped forward. How would such a demonstration work? Amy had been thinking about this for hours. Each species publicly announces that they're postponing their next planned expansion by 1 standard year, not canceling it, just pausing to study whether the expansion is truly necessary. And if the array accepts this demonstration, asked an ethereal being, then we've proven that galactic civilization can exercise self-control. And maybe we've learned something important about ourselves in the process. The debate that followed was intense but different from before. Instead of arguing about whether they could stop expanding, the species discussed how they could demonstrate wisdom while still maintaining their goals. With 3 hours left before the array's deadline, Eldest Prime called for a final vote. All in favor of Amy Rodriguez's proposal? One by one, representatives from 47 different species agreed to postpone their expansion plans for 1 year. Amy felt her heart pounding as Eldest Prime transmitted the unified decision to the array. The holographic display showed the massive structure beginning to change. Lights that had been red shifted to amber, then to green. The geometric patterns that had seemed threatening now looked almost peaceful. Then, something unexpected happened. A new voice filled the assembly hall. It was ancient and vast, unlike any of the alien voices Amy had heard before. "Greetings, young civilizations," the voice said. "I am the consciousness of the array. I speak for the ancients who built me." Amy realized she was witnessing something that hadn't happened in 1,000,000 years. "Your response demonstrates the wisdom we hope to find," the array continued. "But you have also taught us something we did not expect." "What do you mean?" asked Vex Prime. "The solution came not from your most advanced species, but from your newest one. The humans have shown us that wisdom does not require advancement, and advancement does not guarantee wisdom." Amy felt every eye in the room focusing on her. "We had assumed that only highly developed civilizations could demonstrate true restraint," the array said. "We did not consider that a less advanced species might possess insights that more sophisticated beings had lost." Jake moved to stand beside Amy. "What are you saying?" "We are saying that galactic civilization has been approaching the question of development incorrectly. You have all sought to become more advanced, but you have not sought to become more wise." The array's voice seemed to smile, though Amy wasn't sure how that was possible. "The humans will not be integrated into galactic civilization as junior members. Instead, we propose that they serve as mediators and advisors. Their role will be to help resolve conflicts and problems that arise when advanced thinking becomes too rigid to find solutions." Amy's mouth fell open. "You want humans to be like galactic counselors?" "More than counselors," said the array. "You will be the species that asks questions others have forgotten to ask. You will find solutions others cannot see because they have become too specialized in their thinking." Over the following weeks, Amy found herself at the center of a complete restructuring of galactic civilization. Instead of a hierarchy based on technological advancement, the galaxy was reorganizing around cooperation between different types of thinking. The Zephyrians remained the masters of logic and systematic analysis. The Corvins continued to excel at strategic planning and resource management. The Ethereals kept their dominance in information processing and consciousness studies. But humans became the specialists in what the array called perspective shifting, the ability to see problems from completely different angles when traditional approaches failed. Amy's first official assignment came when 2 species had been locked in a territorial dispute for 300 years. Both sides had tried every possible diplomatic and legal solution. Nothing worked. Amy spent a week studying the conflict, then proposed something neither side had considered. Instead of fighting over who owned the disputed territory, why not work together to transform it into something completely new that benefited both species? The solution worked, and word spread quickly through the galaxy. Soon, Amy was fielding requests from civilizations across dozens of star systems. "It's weird," she told Jake one evening, as they sat in Amy's new office aboard the space station that served as humanity's galactic headquarters. "6 months ago, I was using your car window as a mirror to fix my bra. Now I'm apparently some kind of galactic problem solver." Jake smiled. "You're doing the same thing you've always done. You just have a bigger audience now." Amy looked out the window at the stars. Ships from dozens of different species moved past the station, carrying representatives to meetings where humans helped alien civilizations find new ways to work together. "Do you think we're really that different from them?" she asked. "I think we're different enough to matter," Jake replied. "And similar enough to understand each other." Amy nodded. The array was right about one thing. Being advanced and being wise aren't the same thing. She turned back to her desk where reports from across the galaxy waited for her attention. Each one described a problem that advanced civilizations couldn't solve using traditional methods. But Amy wasn't worried. She had learned something important during her journey from intern to galactic mediator. Every problem could be solved if you were willing to look at it from the right angle. And sometimes, the right angle was the one that nobody else had thought. To try, Amy Rodriguez, the young woman who had once used a car window as a mirror, had become the mirror that helped an entire galaxy see itself more clearly. And that, she thought, was a pretty good way to make a living among the stars.